Okay, when he hits the craters and starts bouncing, it's when he gets his roots to tail.
Look at the faces of the Artemis II crew: Wiseman, Glover, Koch, and Hansen. They smile, they wave, they hold their families as if the gravity of Earth could keep them safe forever. But in their eyes, there is a cold clarity. They know that once they step onto that rocket, they are leaving the world of the living. They are ascending into a realm where a single loose screw or a microscopic leak means a slow, suffocating death in the heart of nowhere. The Artemis II mission is different. For 50 years, we stayed in the dirt, haunted by the ghosts of those we lost. We retreated because the universe terrified us. But NASA has spent those 5 decades transmuting that terror into architecture. Every inch of the Orion capsule is a layer of ultimate armor. It is a sanctuary of logic built inside a nightmare. We didn't just build a spacecraft. We built a machine that remembers every mistake we ever made. We didn't just use blueprints. We used the scars of our history. This ship is invincible because it was forged in the fire of our greatest failures. It is a cathedral of high technology intended to protect the only thing the universe cannot understand: the fragile, flickering spark of a human life. The engines are ready. The abyss is waiting. And for the first time, we aren't just hoping to survive. We are expecting to. The first few minutes of a voyage into the stars are not an act of grace. They are a controlled explosion, a desperate attempt to outrun the crushing grip of the Earth. Beneath the feet of the Artemis II crew lies the SLS, a towering monolith of fuel and fury. It is a beast that breathes fire, a tethered monster that converts millions of gallons of volatile liquid into a roaring, blasphemous heat. To sit atop this machine is to sit upon a throne of thunder, knowing that at any microsecond, the monster could choose to wake up and devour you. History has shown us how hungry that fire can be. In the annals of our spacefaring madness, there is no ghost more restless than that of Apollo 1. On a cold January evening in 1967, 3 men, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee, were sealed into a capsule for a routine test. They were not even in flight. They were grounded, tethered to the safety of the Florida soil. But the universe does not respect the safety of the Earth. A spark, a flash in an oxygen-rich atmosphere, and within seconds, the sanctuary became an oven. The hatch, a heavy, stubborn mass of metal, refused to open. They were trapped in a tomb of fire, their screams lost to the roar of the inferno. They did not die in the stars. They died in the cradle, sacrificed to a lesson we were too arrogant to learn. But their ghosts do not haunt the Artemis II gantry to terrify us. They are there to protect us. Look at the very tip of the Orion spacecraft. There sits a long, slender needle reaching toward the heavens. It looks like an afterthought, a mere antenna. But this is the Launch Abort System, LAS, the most sophisticated sentinel ever devised by the mind of man. It is an unsleeping eye, a reflex forged in digital stone. While the SLS rocket rumbles and tears at the sky, the LAS watches. It monitors the vibration of the metal, the temperature of the exhaust, the heartbeat of the engines. If the great beast beneath the astronauts begins to fail, if a seal cracks or a tank ruptures, the LAS does not wait for a human to pull a lever. Human thought is too slow, too clouded by panic. The LAS operates in the realm of the eldritch, reacting in 1,000th of a second. Before the fire can consume the cabin, before the astronauts even realize the world is ending, the LAS ignites its own dedicated solid fuel motors. In a violent, bone-shattering jerk, it tears the Orion capsule away from the dying rocket. It is a miracle of reflexes, pulling the crew into the sky with a force 15 times that of gravity, dragging them out of the jaws of death before the explosion can bloom. This is the first miracle of the invincible ship. We no longer fear the fire on the launch pad. We have mastered it. The sacrifice of Grissom, White, and Chaffee was not in vain. It was the price paid for this guardian of fire. NASA has declared that no one will ever again be trapped in a burning coffin on their watch. The LAS is their vow, a sharp, steel-clad promise that even if the heavens try to burn us, we have built a way to survive the flame. We are small, yes. Our flesh is weak, and the heat of a rocket is enough to vaporize a city. But we have learned to outrun the dragon's breath. We have built a reflex faster than a heartbeat, a technological god that watches over the 4 souls of Artemis II while they ride the lightning. Once the Orion escapes the grip of the Earth, it enters a realm that is not merely hostile. It is a physical impossibility for human life. In the unplumbed depths of the void, there is no pressure, no air, only the absolute zero of a universe that hates the very concept of breath. To the cosmos, a human body is a pressurized balloon of soft tissue and liquid, waiting to be popped by the crushing weight of nothingness. NASA has seen this horror firsthand. In the summer of 1971, the Soviet ship Soyuz 11 returned to Earth. To the observers on the ground, the landing was perfect. The parachutes bloomed. The capsule touched down softly in the tall grass. But when the recovery team opened the hatch, they did not find heroes. They found 3 men, Dobrovolsky, Volkov, and Patsayev, sitting motionless in their seats. They were blue, their eyes wide with a terror they could no longer speak. A single valve, no larger than a coin, had failed in the high atmosphere. Because they wore no pressure suits, the vacuum had reached inside and hollowed them out in the silence of the descent. But the Artemis II crew does not fly unprotected. Behold the ODYSSEY, the Orion Crew Survival System. Do not call these clothes. These are brilliant orange shells of high technology, a personal sanctuary for the soul. They are the final line of defense between the astronaut and the hungry void. The ODYSSEY is a marvel of defiance. It is a suit that thinks. If the Orion's cabin is punctured, if the metal walls of the ship fail, the suit does not panic. It senses the drop in pressure and instantly seals itself, creating a pressurized cocoon of pure oxygen. It connects directly to the ship's umbilical cord, drawing life from the vessel's heart like an unborn child. But here is the invincible truth. Even if the ship dies completely, the suit refuses to give up. NASA has engineered these suits to sustain a human being for 6 days. 6 days of oxygen, temperature control, and waste management. 6 days to navigate back from the moon while floating in a dead, cold ship. It is a spacecraft within a spacecraft, a portable fortress that ensures no man or Nguyen or woman will ever again be a victim of a leaking valve. We have taken the tragedy of Soyuz 11 and turned it into an orange suit of armor. We have accepted that the vacuum is an unbeatable enemy, so we built a way to ignore it. The astronauts of Artemis II walk onto the ship looking like giants because they are wearing the collective protection of 50 years of sorrow and engineering. They are small, yes, a few liters of blood and bone. But inside the ODYSSEY, they are a closed system, a tiny, defiant planet of one, traveling through a universe that can no longer reach them. If you were to peel back the gleaming aluminum-lithium skin of the Orion, past the miles of glowing fiber optic nerves and the thrumming life support organs, you would find something that no sensor can detect. You would find the invisible armor. This ship is not merely a construct of the present, it is a living monument to the past. It is a vessel haunted, not by malevolent spirits, but by 31 guardian ghosts who paid the ultimate price to ensure that Wiseman, Glover, Koch, and Hansen come home to the green hills of Earth. The universe does not forgive. It does not offer second chances. Look into the sepia-toned shadows of January 1986. The Challenger. 7 souls climbed into a machine that had become routine, almost mundane. The morning was cold, a biting terrestrial frost that seemed harmless. But in the alien physics of rocket flight, that cold turned a simple rubber seal, an O-ring, into brittle glass. 73 seconds. That was all it took for the sky to erupt in a horrific white plume of fire. Millions of children watched as the dream of spaceflight was torn apart in the high atmosphere. We learned then that the universe does not care about our schedules or our political triumphs. It only cares about the integrity of the seal. Look again to February 2003. The Columbia. A piece of foam, light as a feather on Earth, but a jagged spear at Mach speeds, struck the leading edge of a wing. We watched for 16 days as those 7 heroes orbited the world, unaware that their shield was broken. When they hit the atmosphere, that wall of fire we call re-entry, the sky didn't just welcome them home, it consumed them. The wing melted from the inside out. They became a streak of light over Texas, a rain of debris across the fields, a sacrifice to our own complacency. These are the scars that make Artemis II invincible. NASA has stopped being arrogant. They have replaced pride with a technological paranoia that is as sharp as a surgeon's blade. The Orion's heat shield is not like the shuttle's fragile tiles. It is a gargantuan ablative monolith, tested by robotic eyes to the level of a single micron. If there is a scratch the size of a human hair, the mission stops. If a sensor flickers with a doubt, the countdown freezes. The political pressure to launch is titanic. The cost of delay is millions. The public is impatient. But NASA now hears the whispers of the 31. They hear the silence of the Apollo 1 cabin. They hear the roar of the Challenger explosion. They see the falling stars of Columbia. Artemis II is the safest ship ever built because it was built by people who are afraid. Not a coward's fear, but the holy dread of a sailor who knows the sea is hungry. The invincibility of this ship lies in its humility. It is a fortress that acknowledges its own fragility. It carries the scar tissue of 60 years of trial and death. When the 4 astronauts of Artemis II look at the control panels, they aren't just seeing buttons and screens. They are seeing the distilled wisdom of every pioneer who didn't make it back. The ghosts of the 31 are woven into the software. They are the invisible armor that stands between the crew and the eldritch indifference of the stars. We go back to the moon not because we have forgotten the dead, but because we are finally worthy of the lessons they left behind. The journey to the moon is a feat of daring, but the return, the frantic, screaming descent back to the cradle, is a confrontation with the very wrath of the gods. Imagine the Orion spacecraft as it nears the Earth. It is no longer a peaceful explorer. It is a falling star, a mass of metal and flesh hurtling through the abyssal dark at 40,000 kilometers per hour. At this speed, the atmosphere of our planet, the same air that fills your lungs and carries the scent of rain, ceases to be a gas. It becomes a solid wall. It becomes a forge. As the ship strikes the upper layers of the air, the kinetic energy of the voyage is converted into an infernal heat, reaching 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is not merely hot. This is the temperature of the surface of a star. The air around the capsule ionizes, turning into a screaming shroud of white-hot plasma that cuts off all communication. For those minutes, the crew is not in a ship. They are inside a thunderbolt. In the past, we met this fire with brute force. We tilted our capsules and prayed that the heat shields would hold as we plummeted like stones dropped from the heavens. It was a suicidal dive, a desperate gamble that the fire would consume the shield before it consumed the men. But for Artemis II, we have moved beyond the desperation of the primitive. We have learned the ballet of physics. Behold the skip re-entry. Instead of a single lethal plunge into the furnace, the Orion will do something that seems to defy the very laws of common sense. As it hits the atmosphere, it will use its shape to generate lift. It will dip into the fire, feel the scorching breath of the atmosphere, and then, like a flat stone thrown by a giant across a glass-still lake, it will skip. The capsule will bounce off the atmosphere, leaping back up into the cold vacuum of space for a brief, breathless moment. This is a maneuver of eldritch precision. In that skip, the intense heat of the first encounter is radiated away into the void. The ship cools. The kinetic energy is bled off, not through a violent explosion, but through a graceful, celestial curve. Then, and only then, does it make its second, final descent. This is the ultimate triumph of human mathematics over cosmic violence. We are no longer fighting the universe, we are dancing with it. By skipping on the air, we reduce the G-forces that crush the astronauts' chests. We reduce the peak heat that threatens to melt the very bones of the ship. We have turned a chaotic fall into a choreographed masterpiece. This is why the Orion is invincible. It does not try to break the laws of physics. It uses them as a shield. We have taken the terrifying power of orbital velocity and tamed it with a skip. We have mastered the forge. When the Orion finally deploys its parachutes over the Pacific, it will not be a charred ruin. No, it will be a vessel that navigated the fire with the grace of a predator. We have learned that to survive the wrath of the heavens, you do not need to be stronger than the fire. You only need to be smarter. We are no longer throwing our heroes into the furnace and hoping for the best. We are leading them through the flames in a ballet of logic and steel. As the Orion bobbles in the gentle currents of the Pacific Ocean, the four souls within, Wiseman, Glover, Koch, and Hansen, do not just step out into the air, they step back into the world of the living. Behind them lies the black, predatory silence of the abyss. Behind them lies the cold, indifferent face of the moon. They have crossed the threshold of no return, danced through a furnace of 5,000 degrees, and returned to tell the tale. Artemis II was never a gamble. It was a confrontation. It was the moment humanity looked into the cyclopean eye of the universe and refused to blink. We must understand that this ship, this invincible fortress, was called Integrity for a reason. The crew chose that name to honor the bond between the engineers, the scientists, and the dreamers on the ground. But in the eldritch language of the stars, integrity means something more. It means wholeness. It means completeness. The Orion is whole because it has stitched every crack, every failure, and every catastrophe of our history into its very skin. It is a vessel that carries the scar tissue of 60 years of trial and death. We did not build this ship with just our hands. We built it with our deaths. When you look at those four heroes stepping out onto the recovery ship, know that they were never alone in that cabin. Floating alongside them in the silence of the lunar shadow were the ghosts of the 31. The pioneers who didn't get a skip re-entry, the dreamers who never felt the parachutes open, the men and women who were consumed by the flame or hollowed out by the vacuum. Artemis II is their monument. Every safety protocol that worked, every redundant system that stayed silent, and every conservative engineering decision that brought those four souls home was a ritual of remembrance for someone who did not come back. We have honored the dead by refusing to repeat their tragedies. We have ratiocinated our way through the nightmare. The universe remains a terrifying, unfeeling expanse. It is still a graveyard of dead stars and lightless voids. It does not care that we have returned to the moon. It does not care that we are dreaming of Mars. We are still small. We are still dust. But we are dust that has learned to forge armor. We return to the moon not because it is easy, as a great man once said, but because the journey has changed us. We have proven that after every fall, after every horrific eruption of fire and failure, the human species does not retreat. We learn. We grow sharper, colder, and more resilient. We transmute our sorrows into steel and our fears into physics. Artemis II is the dawn of a new era, an age where science and compassion have finally merged to conquer the darkness. We have proven that the abyssal silence can be answered with the roar of a human engine. We have proven that the infinite void can be navigated by the flickering spark of human logic. The pioneers are home. The cradle of Earth has welcomed its children back from the dark. But the moon still hangs there, a silent sentinel in the night sky, no longer a prison, but a gateway. We are going back. We are going further. And we are going with the strength of everyone who ever fell to show us the way. For in the end, The most invincible thing humanity has ever built isn't a ship of metal and wire. It is the unyielding, immortal will to explore, to stare into the blackness of the abyss and say, with a voice that will never be silenced, "We are here, and we are coming for the stars."